And he said, well, I'll just give you free bones.
Borough Broth started in a kitchen. Now it's everywhere. Founded by Ros Heathcote, the brand was born out of a personal health journey and fueled by an unusual mix of culinary care and data-driven thinking.
The opposite to risk-averse, quite embracing of risk, but actually I think also I probably don't give myself enough credit because it's really calculated risk.
Using her background in data science, Ros has scaled Borough Broth to a projected £7 million in revenue, landing listings in Ocado, Sainsbury's, Waitrose, and most recently, a major Tesco launch.
I'm just trying to think of just the complexity now of you running this business and what you're currently doing, several million per year compared to back then.
In this episode of Scaling Sessions, Ros walks us through the journey, from the serendipitous moment she got her hands on thousands of free bones, to running her own production facilities and becoming a staple on UK shelves. It's a masterclass in scaling a food brand the smart and scrappy way.
And sort of a bit of a lightning bolt moment where I called my mum and said, I've just met someone who's going to change the rest of my life. So I'm Ros Heathcote and I'm the founder and managing director of Borough Broth, which is now a company that has 2 brands and we also manufacture ourselves. Our flagship brand is Borough Broth, Bone Broth Company. And we also now have a sister brand, which is called Spicebox Organic, which is a plant-based dal company currently. That's dal, as in
dal. Oh, okay.
Like
lentil dal. Okay,
yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, yeah.
So
it's a very big staple in my household.
Is it?
Yeah, lentil dal. The children love it.
I mean, it's kind of, I was buying the product and then there came an opportunity to acquire the brand.
Okay.
Which is what we did last year. And the founder, Grace, has come and joined us. So she's now running the brand under Borough Broth. And it's perfect because it's organic and we can make it in our factory. So yeah, it's kind of exciting.
I was going to say, is it a totally separate arm or is it something that you strategically thought you could leverage what you were doing anyway to make it?
It's it's a completely separate brand.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I mean, I joke it's hot wet stuff. So I'm like, we can do hot wet stuff. But for me, dal is hugely important to me anyway. It's sort of, we're leveraging our routes to market because they're in pouches and it's chilled. Okay. So it's similar buyers that we're working with. So it's sort of been quite a natural move to get it into shops. And
it makes a ton of sense actually when you say it like that.
Yeah.
Do you want to go back maybe and just talk about quickly the start of Borough Broth and again why broth? I know broth has become so big recently, but I don't know, maybe a few years ago it wasn't necessarily as popular as it is now.
No, we just had our 10th anniversary, so
wow,
I know,
congrats.
It's long.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I started it when nobody really knew what bone broth was, other than the sort of nerds that were Googling it like me, at least in the UK. So, I mean, it's funny, people say why broth, but it's more why business, because I had no plans to become an entrepreneur. I had a really good job. I worked in data analytics, which I've been doing for 10 years. And I was working at Coca-Cola, had a great role there where I was looking at data and intelligence and traveling a lot and loved it, but it was hard work. And I got quite run down with the job. I was quite stressed. I was working with software companies out in San Francisco, so the hours of meetings were kind of wild and I was up all night working on things. So I got really run down and really inflamed, basically. My digestion was bad. I suddenly started getting reacting to lots of things and not knowing why. I'd eat something and I'd feel dreadful, or I'd get a rash on my face and I'd be like, what's this? Why is this happening? Sort of thing. So I went to Harley Street, paid 200 quid, got a allergy test, and was told, oh, you're allergic to fragrance, which was news to me because I'd never had that allergy before. And talking to the doctor, he sort of said, there is some emerging evidence that if you improve your gut health, then, you'll be more resistant to, less reactive. Basically, it's like a protective layer if your gut lining is, in order. He said, but, it's very new science. So then I went to a nutritionist, a naturopathic nutritionist, and she was like, oh, one of the good things to heal your gut is bone broth. Try and remove things that might aggravate your digestion. So I removed the obvious things, dairy, gluten, things that a lot of people might be sensitive to, and basically ate meat, fish, vegetables, and bone broth every day. And the bone broth seemed to really help. And I'd kind of grown up, my mum always made chicken soup when we were young, always boil a carcass and use it.
Okay, yeah.
So it was sort of not a million miles away from...
Were you buying it or were you making it yourself?
Well, there was nowhere to buy it. So I've got 3 siblings and they all live in California. And I was already buying organic, like I was very into that stuff. So I was always checking the labels on things. But yeah, I realised that... that was a trend in the US, but it wasn't anywhere in the UK. So I started making my own and realised that actually, a 3-litre slow cooker every day would get me about, half a litre of bone broth at the end of it. And I'd have that in one meal. So I was like, this is a lot of work. I have to cook it for 24 hours in my tiny flat.
Expensive electricity bill as well.
Yeah, I mean, and it just stinks, right? Your house, every soft furnishing smelt of bone broth in my flat, and I was a bit like, there was like a film on everything.
You've been one of the only people in Britain doing that at the time.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I now have met a lot of people probably 2 generations older than me, and they're like, I've been doing this every day of my life, because their grandmothers always made a stock or a broth. There was always some kind of version of it. But actually around the time of World War One and then World War Two, when meat was scarce, stock cubes became the thing. So actually everybody had a stock pot in their home until that happened, and it was a convenience food. And I now say, stock cubes are war food.
Yeah. OXO kind of.
OXO, yeah. I hate to throw OXO under the under the bus, but and it was sort of means to an end. But actually, there's not much meat in those, and
I wouldn't have imagined.
No, it's salt and sugar and yeast extract basically, which is what people have become accustomed to tasting. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to not use stock cubes anymore, because actually a lot of people react to those as well and don't realise, because it's quite potent MSG in those, which, again, MSG is not a bad thing and it's been demonised, and I'm not demonising it, but some people are sensitive to glutamates in food. So I started making it every day, and then met this butcher who was at my local market, and somehow got talking to him about his website, and I said, I could help you out with that. And he said, well, I'll just give you free bones, because you seem to be taking all our bones. We thought you had 5 dogs, but apparently they're all for you. And and I was like, okay, well, how many bones do you have? And he was like we have an abattoir, and we have to incinerate tons every week, because no one wants them, no one's buying them, they're heavy, it's hard to get the nutrition out of them because you have to cook them for a long time. So actually they're a waste product. So you can have as many as you like, just pay for the transport. And I was like, that's wild. Yeah. And sort of a bit of a lightning bolt moment where I called my mum and said, I've just met someone who's going to change the rest of my life.
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And we're all a bit, hippy-dippy, spiritual, God-botherer types. So she was like, wonderful, darling.
It's a waste product, and you're like, I can turn this waste product into something that's so valuable to me because I've been drinking it for so long. It's definitely a big, massive eureka moment, I imagine.
It is, and it was something that really changed my life as far as, feeling normal, which I realised I hadn't felt normal for years. It's... you can exist feeling pretty dreadful for a long time. And I think when you sort your health out, you're like, oh my God, how was I functioning at about 60% for this long? And it's easy to fall back into bad habits. And I certainly have over the last 10 years of sort of eating the wrong thing or whatever.
But you're more conscious of where you could be, I suppose.
I know exactly.
You've been there.
Yeah, I know exactly how to get back there. And it's actually when I then get back there, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, this is why.
I just want to go back to the bags of bones that you're about to buy. So business idea, you're like, I know this is a business idea.
Yeah. 100%.
What do you do next? You've got the nice job in Coca-Cola.
Yeah, well, I was at the time I was 31 and I was single and had a good income, but no savings, because I've never been a saver. But I'd suddenly cleared myself of debt for the first time in my sort of adult life. So I was suddenly like, I've paid off all my debt, but I don't really have any money.
Yeah.
So, but I was thinking, well, I could do this at the weekends. There's a really cool market at the end of my road because I lived in Bermondsey and there was lots going on. So I was like, maybe I'll just get a market stall and I'll do it. And maybe I'll just set up a little website. People seem to be doing that online now. I mean, that was quite a new movement, was sort of people setting up a Shopify or whatever. It was still quite early back then. So, but I was very techie. So I was like, I could throw a website together, you know. So what I need is a brand, what I need is a kitchen. It's bone broth. It's not going to be that hard. Like I just need a bigger pot, basically.
Yeah.
Like it's bones, vegetables,
water and
seasoning.
Seasoning, yeah.
Just slow cooked. So anyway, so then I went online. I mean, I think it was like Gumtree or like the alternative to, you know, one of these sort of classified ads.
Giant pot.
Yeah. No, well, it was more kitchen, like kitchen space in East London. Found this like catering company that had a tiny kitchen in Limehouse, East London, and they did sandwiches for offices Monday to Friday, and they were like, it's empty in the weekends. So I was like, wicked, okay, great. And then literally rang round equipment companies saying, I want a big pot. Like, you know, I had no idea what to ask for. I was like, a big pot that can take sort of, I don't know, 100 litres. And they were like, okay, well, you could do this, this or this. So it was that simple, really. I just asked everyone for advice, Googled a lot how to set up a business, how to start a bone broth.
And at this stage, you're going to set up a Shopify store. How are you selling it? You've got to figure out the packaging.
Figure out the packaging.
Buying some tubs, putting a sticker on them, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's weird actually. People always ask, because we've always been in pouches.
Okay, yeah.
How did you get to a pouch? Because pretty much everything was in hard pots at the time.
Yeah, the plastic pots.
Plastic pots.
Yeah.
But this was a tiny kitchen, and I knew I wanted to sell it D2C from the get-go, because I thought, and initially we were always frozen because I didn't know how long I could get the shelf life for chilled. So we had these freezers. I had hardly any room to store packaging, but to order more packaging was cheaper. So and then I spoke to some companies, and I just, in my head, I was like, well, they don't break, they freeze easily, they store in hardly any space.
They kind of squash together.
Yeah.
Or in a box.
You'll get a box of 1,000.
Yeah.
And it's, whereas it
with your margin hat on, you're thinking that's a bit of a bonus as well.
It's a bonus, and also logistically, surely that's more sustainable because it's not taking up loads of room. Yeah. So less fossil fuels.
Less horrible plastic as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those break, they're quite brittle in the freezer, the pots. So yeah, so it just that was quite a quick decision of like, I like to think logical thinking of like, well, this totally makes sense because, you know, there'll be less wastage and it's easier. So my mate lent me £6,000 to put a deposit down on the kitchen, buy a bit of equipment. I mean, he now says, I can't believe I lent you £6,000.
Yeah.
Like,
that'll be worth whatever.
Well, I can tell you now, he's about to make a very big return.
Okay, very nice.
But he very kindly I was sort of telling him about it, like super excited, and he was just like, well, how much do you need? And I was like, probably only 5 or 6 just to get it off the ground. And then I can put whatever's surplus of my salary into it until it sort of pays for itself. So yeah, so that whole process of me sort of developing the product, getting some labels designed off a friend of a friend who worked in branding, and he was like, I'll do it for £200. I had a mate who
I love these stories so much. It's just so good.
Well, it was a lot of quick decisions.
No idea about where it was going to go.
No.
Obviously, to the scale it is now.
No, I mean, I shopped in Planet Organic and Whole Foods, so I was a bit like, well, I'd like to be in there. That would be nice. But and so I designed the packaging and did my first production run where we'd filled out how to, you know, worked out how to fill up the pouches, how to seal them, how to store them in a safe way, and put it on our Instagram that had about 100 followers. And I'd liked a lot of posts from Selfridges Food Hall because I was like, I want to get on their radar, and I thought that might be a good strategy. Yeah. So I just went through their feed and just liked loads. I think that's deemed spamming now. Okay, so I might get into trouble. But whoever, well, I met her later. The lady that ran their Instagram account then looked on my account, saw my first batch of bone broth, and tagged 2 buyers in my post.
Wow!
And said, this looks interesting.
What year was that?
2015.
2015. So this is maybe a year after you started?
No.
The same year?
It was 6 weeks after I started.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
So it was my first production run. I mean, I have to say, now looking back, I'm like, how I rapidly developed a brand and like.
So sorry, you got the deal from Sainsbury's 6 weeks after you started?
Selfridges.
Oh, sorry, Selfridges.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to think there. And your initial intention was purely D2C, and then suddenly this happens.
Yeah, I was.
And then do things just start to escalate very quickly from there? Like on the podcast, I really want to talk about the different kind of levels, step up levels that you've made over the last 10 years.
Sure.
And how you got there, like the strategies and the challenges and all those things. So I can imagine that's 6 weeks in. Selfridges. Things are going to change pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Selfridges. I don't know if you're familiar with Selfridges, but
we have, they own a shop in Dublin that's
similar.
Brand Thomas, it's called. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so like they've 2 stores in the UK, but big flagship in London, and it's a lovely big food hall. So it's very prestigious, and so yeah, within 3 months, because obviously they then tagged the buyers, and the buyers said looks interesting, and then we had a conversation, and I got the product to where it needed to be to go into retail, because it was still quite very early, obviously.
Yeah.
But so I launched the business in May, and by November we launched in Selfridges, and Selfridges is 2 streets away from the Coca-Cola office. So I got in an Uber, did my first delivery, hand delivered it to the food hall, and then walked to work that morning.
That's so cool. Wow.
And was like, this is a weird day. Like, that's wild.
Did you have any experience in pricing your product? Because from my personal experience, I own a glasses company. I don't know if I told you.
No, you didn't.
I was stocked in Brown Thomas.
Oh,
initially,
wow.
which is the Sainsbury's, and a similar story. I used to like deliver boxes to the logistics facility and stuff, and go and do something else. But I messed up with the margin for retail initially, and it actually turns out I was losing money. Probably I'd never factored that in because I didn't have the experience.
Yeah.
How did you make a mistake back then?
Do you know what? It's a really good point and question, because it's probably one I get asked more than anything when I'm talking to really young brands. It sounds like from your perspective, you hadn't accounted for
Thought about it
in the early days. And to be fair, when I look back, I just gave myself a very big margin to start with. I did go on LinkedIn and I thought, who do I admire? And I messaged the founder of Rebel Kitchen, which is quite a well-known sort of organic coconut milk brand. And I thought, I love the way that brand's grown. They grew rapidly in 2015. So I messaged her, and incredibly, she sent me her mobile number and said, give me a call, like very quickly. And I said, look, I'm starting this company. I don't really know what I'm doing. And she gave me some sage advice, which was, with pricing, I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this, but she said, with pricing, start high, because you can never bring it back up.
Yes.
It's very, very hard.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, if I'm the only bone broth company, I had the luxury of, I was pretty much the only one on the market. There is no benchmark. If you're going into the glasses game or soft drinks, it's a lot harder to set your price point, because it's quite...
You got to balance the margin with the competitiveness.
Exactly. So you know what your retail margin needs to be, and you might be like, my margin's not great. I've got to whittle down some costs to get me where I need to be. Whereas for me, I was like, I'll start with a high retail price. So I think we started at about £7. And I was like, this stuff, to me, I would pay £7 for it, because it's such a ball ache to make, and to ensure the ingredients are perfect, and all of that stuff. It's got real integrity. So I started at 7, and I knew that I could get a good margin, and then very quickly learnt about the wholesale margin and everything else. I was like, oh, thank God, I can fit it all in. But since meeting a lot of brands, there is an interesting attitude with young brands that I really try and challenge, because there's a lot of resentment about having to account for a wholesale margin. So if you are sending it to a wholesaler, they have to take their cut to then sell it onto a retailer. And there's a lot of why do I have to give them that? And
should I not just go directly to the retailer?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that feel they should go directly. But also this resentment towards a wholesaler who really do serve a purpose and do a lot of work that and there's a lot of efficiencies. So I'm very pro wholesale. And it's sort of, I find it odd when it's normally because it's news to somebody. They're suddenly like, what? I have to give 20% to someone else. So I'm always like, early on.
Account for that.
Or at least build yourself a big margin that you can account for extra costs. So it's always going to cost more than you think it's going to cost.
So going on from Selfridges, I just want to give context of the stage you're at now, just so we lead up to that. I mean, I was blown away when I'm looking at the numbers for this company. Like, it's so big at the moment. Your wholesale arm is huge.
Yeah.
Recently stocked in Tesco. And I imagine over the last 10 years, there's been different periods of time where you transitioned from, you in the kitchen, then it might go to a team, and I don't know how it develops from there. But what's probably like, I suppose, the next big milestone, and how did kind of your business change and your attitude towards business change, and what challenges came about?
Yeah, so we were in Selfridges, but in fairness to Selfridges, that it is one food hall, right? So it didn't move the dial massively. We were selling a couple of cases a week of each, so it certainly wasn't going to pay the bills. So we had our little website, and that actually was doing quite, well, considering I hadn't put any money behind it. And then I mean, my main issue was actually sourcing bones, right? Because I went organic. So then I had to find organic farms, and that was a whole thing. And then there was one farm who were just starting their own D2C online butchery, meat boxes, basically. And they said, we've got loads of bones going to waste, so we'll sell you all our bones. Why don't we sell your broth? So I was like, great, sure. And I was very lucky that with them, they grew rapidly. And actually, the bone broth ended up being bestseller for them because they put a little bit of money behind Google Ads, and suddenly anyone searching for bone broth went to them. So we suddenly had this collective of like diehard followers via this online butchery, who became a long-term partner for us until recently, and they were acquired, and we now work with the company that acquired them.
Okay, wow.
So we're still working with them, but that grew from me and one lady in a kitchen working 1 or 2 days a week, the weekend basically, to make the broth, to 4 people full-time 7 days a week in this kitchen.
Incredible.
We scaled up, and the kitchen was probably twice the size of this room. Like, it was tiny.
Wow.
And I'd upgraded the electrics and all these things. And then it got to the point where we'd outgrown it. So that was a difficult time because the guy who owned the catering business was sort of trying to get a bad deal out of me, basically. He was like, I'll get a kitchen and you just give me 50% of the company. And I was like, I don't know, I feel like I could do it myself.
Yeah.
So I gave him 3 months notice, found him someone to replace me. And actually, when I moved out, he then tried to make a bone broth company himself.
No way.
Yeah, it didn't go very well, sadly. Because he cut corners. I raised investment from friends and family. I needed about 150. I ended up raising 125 grand.
Okay.
Which, when I look back on now, I'm like, that's not a lot of money. Like, no. For a business to scale. But again, I'm very detail orientated when it comes to numbers. I was a data analyst, so the business is run off a lot of spreadsheets.
Okay.
So I really worked out what it was going to cost us to scale to the next level, and then with that, there'd be room to scale more. So found a space in West London inside actually one of my wholesalers' warehouses. He had some production rooms that weren't being used. So I rented those rooms and kitted them out and quit my job. So that was probably 1.5 years after launching the business. 1.5 years, 2 years.
It's amazing. It's so fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was time. Yeah. Like, I was really stretched working full time and running the business because I was still traveling and, doing my job well, I like to think.
Yeah.
But I'd managed to create processes and structure that I could run it remotely, and the team in the kitchen knew exactly what they were doing. And
with that 125 grand, what did you see as being, what was it for?
It was for predominantly large kit. So we now needed industrial equipment, and we needed to, install gas that could supply our giant cookers. We needed big blast chiller, things like that.
Capital expenditure.
A lot of capex, and then also hires. So I hired. I had an intern who offered to work for free, but we did pay her. And then I hired a friend who wanted to quit his job. He ended up investing as well, and he became our ops manager. And then eventually we needed a production manager. So a few hires, and I didn't pay myself for 2 years basically. So I'd put loads of my own money in the business at that point. So it was a director's loan, and I sort of managed. I moved into a flat share. Yeah. Paid my rent with my director's loan.
Yeah, tax free.
Yeah,
it's nice.
yeah. So,
although you are owed it, but yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I sort of did that over 2 years, just covered my costs. So that, it was a bit of sacrifice.
So you've obviously raised money. I'm not sure if you've raised money again in the future, but how do you? It's interesting. I was talking to our last guest, Luke, about it. He views debt financing and investment as two different streams of money, and he uses them for different purposes. So obviously you've got your investment there, and that's capital expenditure. When did it become apparent that you needed to take on other forms of financing to scale the business, and how do you view both streams of cash?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't take that much more to date. We haven't taken that much more investment. Last year we did a raise for 500,000, and that was less capital expenditure. It was more like scaling. And because I've always bootstrapped, we don't always show a profit. We did actually show a profit last year, but it's always been like pretty tight. So we don't always have that much credit available to us, or we didn't before we met Wayfly. But I'm very the opposite to risk averse.
Okay. Yeah.
Quite embracing of risk. But actually, I think also I probably don't give myself enough credit because it's really calculated risk. It's just that I'm willing to take more risk than banks are, for example.
Yeah.
I think for us, I've avoided investment because I wanted to keep control for as long as possible. And this was a lifestyle business rather than I want to get to 20 million by here. It was more, I want to grow this business, sustain a nice life.
Passion and freedom.
Passion and freedom. It's all about freedom. And actually, you don't need a lot in life to have a lot of freedom, especially if you're running your own business. And I wanted to create this lovely workplace for people. So yeah, it was a lot of debt, basically. I was quite willing to stretch any line of credit to get to where we needed to be, because every time we got a new customer, it was a big step up in revenue.
Yeah.
There was always that lag of 3 to 6 months where you need to create the products, build the stock, hire the people, and then it pays for itself. And we proved that time and again. And then 2017 we moved into it. I got the first raise, and then in 2020 we'd outgrown that kitchen. Okay. And we moved into where we are now, which is our warehouse. And at that point I needed about £500,000, and it was the time of COVID. So, there were ways and means of getting more credit at that point. So it was sort of weirdly a good time for us. We were super busy.
I was going to say, I'd say it was a huge trending product during that time, was it?
Yes. Yeah. And we were on Ocado, which is the reason I moved into the kitchen in 2017 was I was like, if you build it, they will come. Yeah. And I knew I was going to get Ocado. I just had it in my sights. And we got it. By 2018, we launched early 2018 in Ocado. And to be honest, from 2018 through to now, Ocado, up until last year, most of our growth has come from Ocado.
Wow.
So they've just been an incredible business to grow with.
I'm interested when you say, you're taking big risks in terms of in terms of debt.
Yeah.
With the foresight down the line that you're going to expand in like 6 months, or you're going to see a big injection of revenue.
Yeah.
But how do you know? How do you know? And how are you're using that money to prepare for that? How many bones do you? How many bones do you have to like predict you're going to need?
Yeah, that's hard actually.
This is what I'm trying to understand with this product especially.
Yeah, and with the bones, it remains one of the biggest challenges in the business, and it's our USP that we've sort of got it down to a fine art.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm very proud of that because it's hard because organic is quite niche, and we've probably got, well, I believe we have we take in the most organic bones of any other company in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of number crunching, which is my background, right? So I mean, ultimately I know a lot of MDs have different roles and like to do different things and wear different hats, but for me it really was demand planning was a huge part of what I was doing day to day. And
Could you talk me through that? People find that so difficult, and hearing from someone like you would be very beneficial on that.
Yeah, I mean, we work with a company called Unleashed that do all of our warehouse fulfillment stuff. So we had something that tracked our stock in how we produce and what our yields were in production. But I had attached, I don't want to get too techie, but I pulled out all that data from that system, so I knew what we were producing day to day, and then I did a lot of algorithms myself and have built out a lot of very extensive linked spreadsheets that the businesses run on today.
Wow.
I know it's a bit wild because we now probably do need to move to something out of the box, but I can't find anything better is the problem.
This is your second business idea, or third actually.
My accountant said the same thing, because I've done the same with cash flow. So I've developed a daily cash flow, which is really quite accurate, which is why we've been able to bootstrap for so long, is because basically I know every number that's coming in and out. As you know, obviously everything's forecast, but you can get better at forecasting and you can use predictive analytics, and you talk to your retailers about getting better forecasts, because a lot of them can give you quite crap forecasts, and you have to work
on the pessimistic or the optimistic side.
Both.
Yeah.
And so then you have to work with their team to make sure their forecasts are better, and together you can predict things better. So you can tell them it's going to be a hot week, so I would reduce your forecast unless you know something we don't, and then they'd be like, oh yeah, okay, we hadn't factored that in, because there's so many things to factor in when you're forecasting. So hot on forecasting, daily forecasting, updating the plan every single day.
Wow.
And I invested in somebody doing that with me, overseeing it from very early, because I saw the value in that, because the amount of money you can lose by misforecasting is, it can ruin a business.
I was going to say, what's the shelf life?
Well, now we've got the shelf life pretty long, so it's 6 months.
It's 6 months, okay, and that's probably made your life a little bit easier.
A lot easier, but it's still a chilled product that is, we're still delivering into retailers every day. And we have a third-party logistics, so still managing that. And we also have Spice Box, which is a shorter shelf life on the dials. That's about 40 days. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of our specialism. We have been doing short shelf life. I mean, we're not like veg, which is like 5 days, but still it is an area of expertise. I now look at ambient brands like in admiration, like, oh, what a dream.
Yeah.
What a dream to have 2 years shelf life.
And in terms of, let's go back to like D2C, I'm probably correct in saying, is it around 25% of what you would do at the moment?
I would say a bit less. I'd say around 10%.
Around 10, okay. Do you put a lot of focus onto the D2C arm of it, or is it more something that you just kind of, you have going on in the background while you try and grow your retail presence?
It's a really interesting one I sort of look at regularly as to, should we invest more?
I was going to say, is it attractive? Because obviously the margin's going to be a lot bigger.
Yeah, I mean, it depends if you're talking about Amazon or you're talking about just on your website, because, there are a lot of costs and you need agencies to look after, whether it's Google Ads or Amazon. Mm-hmm. For me, it's a branding exercise than anything. There is also, we have a number of niche products that we bring out that are a short run. So, for example, we have an organic duck broth. Mm-hmm. There's maybe one or maybe two organic duck suppliers in the UK. So we know that's never going to be something we can take to big retail, because there's just not the volume there. So we'll release that and put that on our website for our die-hard subscribers. Okay. And I quite like that we have a bit of a unique offering on there for the people who really, really live and breathe the brand. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's kind of for that. It's for community,
Yeah.
and it's branding. We don't, price wise, we keep it relatively. I don't hugely discount on there because
The retailers don't like it.
Well, this is the thing. I've never, in probably 5 years, ever had a conversation with a retailer about it. I've only once had a buyer that brought it up.
Okay.
And that was more about Amazon, and they were like, "I'm not supposed to say this." But in that time, I don't know. I feel like I want people to go to retail. I feel like it's more accessible in retail. When you buy it on our website, you have to buy at least 5 in one go. And people in London, myself included, don't have a lot of fridge space. So buying 5 is a bit like, okay, I'm giving up a lot of space for this thing in my fridge. So for me, especially people who want to try it, we're now like, there's a Tesco a mile down the road from you. Why don't you try that one?
Yeah.
And let us know if you like it, because a lot of people want to try before they really commit. So yeah, I'm all about retail, to be honest, at this point.
Do you view, I don't know, do you do a lot of digital ads, and do you see those digital ads more so as that branding piece to send people to stores rather than direct response on sales on the website?
It's, again, an interesting one. We've been working with a new agency recently, and that's been a big question.
Yeah.
It's hard because when you want to see an ROI, it's very pleasing to see it, go through your D2C, so you can actually see a proper return on investment.
Yeah.
When you do brand awareness, measuring that is so hard.
Especially hearing from the agency as well.
Yes.
But yeah, there might be a tendency to overinflate those numbers if you can't confirm them.
And also in their defense, because we've been like, having a lot of back and forth with them. In their defense, they're like, can we track your retail sales? Because we believe if those are boosted, that may be down to our digital advertising.
Yeah.
And so there's that sort of, well, is it? Or is it just that people... We're growing. We've only been in Tesco 2 weeks, so it's going to grow either way. So it's very hard to track. So yeah, I think also because we're not massively cheap on our website, they might argue that that's a problem. So yeah, it's...
You mentioned there the Tesco launch, sorry. That was 2 weeks ago, was it?
Or 3. Yeah.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Did that feel that's a huge moment for you guys? I presume this is your biggest retail partnership to date.
Is it our biggest retail? Yes, I suppose we're in the most. Actually, well, we're in. If you're talking about store counts or the size
store
of
count.
Store count, we're probably in slightly more Waitrose. We're basically in almost all of the Waitrose now. So yeah, I would say because we've only just launched in Tesco, but it's been a very nice store count. They're all about even keel.
Yeah.
Along with Sainsbury's, where we launched in January. So it's been quite a big year for us. But again, it's just about really good forecasting. So as soon as we knew what the date was going to be or thereabouts, we've been building up and planning. So those launches always feel like a long time coming when they happen.
I was going to say, how long notice do you get?
It really varies. So yeah, I think with Tesco we knew for about 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
And yeah, with Waitrose I think it was about 8 weeks.
Okay.
That was quite rapid. Yeah, but amazing. But we really had to work our arses off to get Waitrose off. So
I suppose the bigger challenge then is predicting the second purchase. Maybe because they go, congratulations, you've made it into Tesco. They probably give you that a bit sooner than they would. Oh, hey, we've sold out, or we need to get more in.
Oh, I see. Well, because
you don't know, you can't predict necessarily so well in Tesco.
No, and we've got better at forecasting because we can use our retail experience now as a benchmark and sort of think, what would the Tesco customer? But also they have demand planning, so we work with Tesco's demand planners, and they'll give us a forecast. But for them, they're like, we don't have a lot of data on this either because it's a new category. So we're sort of figuring it out. I suppose the beauty of us, what we do is because it's chilled, we're available 7 days a week. So they don't do a massive order and then order again a month's time. They order every day.
Okay.
So we can see the trend every day.
Okay.
And very quickly be like, okay, we're going to need to produce this much and make sure. Also, we work with third-party logistics that supply all the retailers. So it's picked from a big pile of, a lot of pallets of broth. that would go to Sainsbury's or go to Waitrose.
Okay.
So we can mitigate if that's a big,
You can take from a different stock temporarily.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm pleased to say we never short anybody.
Yeah.
I always say I'm allergic to shorting people. But because we've got the long shelf life, we've got a good amount of stock held.
Yeah.
So that we know that they can always take, if that makes sense.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of just the complexity now of you running this business and what you're currently doing, several million per year, compared to back then. I mean, what do you kind of focus on these days, and what does the operation look like? How many employees?
We're at about 46 employees. Everybody's full-time, no 0 hours contracts or anything. So yeah, we have our own production kitchen, we have our own warehouse, and our office, which is currently a porter cabin. Mm-hmm. So it's quite unglamorous to say the least. But yeah, the business, I mean, we've got a marketing team of about 4 people now. And then I have an operations director who's been a bit of a game changer. So she now has sort of taken on running the operation, which is probably one of the hardest bits of the job. I always view it that this is 2 or 3 businesses. So we've now got 2 brands and we've got a manufacturer. And they actually have to be viewed as different businesses to an extent. So, because a lot of brands don't manufacture themselves. Mm-hmm. So I almost try now to separate it as, how do I have it from my brand owner hat to my manufacturer hat?
Which is all about efficiency. And then the other one is about selling.
And product development, and how we can complement each other without costing each other a lot. So support, it's all about, I mean, also our manufacturing, we've done a bit of white label, but ultimately we're entirely own our brand now.
And that does differentiate you as well.
It does. I think anybody else outsourcing will work with a manufacturer that's looking after many brands.
They're just not going to win. It's just, I would presume, maybe if their branding is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you'll always compete with whoever the manufacturer prefers.
Yeah.
And especially if they have their own brand as well, then you're always going to be second rung. So and it's not that we've done lots of branded stuff for other people before, but now it's very much we'll only do co-branded things, really.
Okay, what does co-branded look like?
It's our brand and whoever, the retailer or the other brand.
Oh, so like a limited edition type stuff, or
not always limited edition, but we've done little projects here and there. So I sort of, for me, it's about brand value.
Yeah. So you want to leverage their brand value.
Well, so it's more about our brand value growing. Like, I don't want to be a pots and pans manufacturer.
Okay.
Because I've seen that happen to a lot of manufacturers where they get a big contract with another brand, and they lose the essence of what their brand was because it's consumed their volume.
Yeah.
And they end up just being a co-packer or a kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's not what I went into this to do. So for me, I love the factory and it's a big part of it. I love nerding out about it, but it's not what I want the business to be based on.
Do you think that owning your own factory has been probably the best move you've made, the best strategy you've made in the history of the business?
Definitely. Definitely one of, I would say. I mean, I always think, what would it look like now? I'd like to think it's less stressful if you don't. Like, running a manufacturing site is really hard. And especially when you're bootstrapped, it's like really hard. But I also look at it as, I know plenty of people with brands where their manufacturers have let them down.
Yeah.
And that is more stressful because you have no control. Whereas for me, I have full control end to end, unless a supplier lets me down. But with that, I can mitigate that. So I like control. I'm a control freak. So yes, it's better for me.
Is there a big impact on the margin as well, obviously?
Yes, obviously, because you're taking the whole margin.
Would you be comfortable talking us through like the margin on a packet of broth?
No.
No? Okay, fair enough.
No, I don't think I would, really.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, so about what does the future look like for the brand? I'm just thinking in my head, bone broth has obviously taken off quite a lot recently. There's kind of different, what would you say, categories of customer? It's probably a big thing now within, I don't know, even like men would be drinking it. Like, it's a big gym thing now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I went on a 72-hour bone broth diet.
Oh my
recently
God.
Enough. Yeah.
Wow.
I saw, who was it? It was like Dana White. It's like the UFC owner guy. did it. He's like in his 50s, and he put up a picture, and basically had a massive impact on him.
Oh, wow.
And I think I know, like, personally, like maybe 8 other men who instantly went on bone broth diets. If you'd seen an unexpected spike in business, that could have been it.
To be honest, it is interesting because obviously it's not my demographic, but one of our team very much follows these sort of, health guys. And we had Eddie Hearn mentioned our bone broth on a podcast.
Okay.
And he was like, I've been fasting using this
There you
bone
go.
broth from Waitrose. Or we also had Eddie Hall did a whole video.
Strongest man in the UK?
Man.
Yeah.
He did a whole 10-minute video just with our broth. We hadn't sent him any. He'd gone out and bought it and just did this. And that was a huge spike.
That's incredible.
It's kind of amazing. And I'm like, these are interesting demographics that we, because I started the business for me, and I was like, there's lots of women of an age in their 30s, now 40s, who want collagen in their diet and want to look after their gut health. But it's interesting when we look at the numbers, I find it really interesting, again, because I'm a data person, looking at certain stores. And for example, Canary Wharf, stores in Canary Wharf, we sell more beef than we do chicken.
Because is that all the finance bros? Yeah, okay.
And I'm like, beef. It's a more masculine
Interesting.
meat.
There's more protein in it as well.
There is.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that makes me think there's more finance guys buying it there. So
That's very interesting.
So I think you're right. I think we're actually, my dream always was that it would become a staple, as much as kefir has become a staple now. That's kind of the sort of benchmark I've always looked for, is that goes in with the milk and the eggs and the bread, bone broth. Yeah, it's a pretty standard thing to put in your basket now, and it is becoming more that.
Do you think to access these new demographics, you'll need to really kind of diversify the messaging, advertising? Is that something is that something you're doing, or is that something you might intend to do?
Yeah, it's certainly something that we intend to do longer term. We historically haven't invested that much in marketing versus other brands. There's certainly brands that have gone hell for leather and happy to run at a massive loss every year, throwing money at advertising and hoping it sticks. But for me, it's more about building credibility and
presence.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think if you're in a retailer, that's a lot of the marketing done for you. If you're in a prime location, it's certainly now that we're looking at sort of a raise now, which is the plan, because we've got to build a new factory. But there will, can you believe it? Well. I know. I'm hoping we'll be in this one for 10 years, so we don't have to move again. But a big chunk of that will go towards marketing as well.
Okay. Wow. So what does the future look like for the next 2 or 3 years? What's your overall goal? Your big goal?
Honestly, just keeping up with the momentum on our growth in retail, because we've only just started in big retail, really. In the last 2 years have we been in major retailers, other than online. So, I feel like there's lots of NPD that I can't really talk about right now. Although there is one here, which we are about to launch, which we have a product, our chicken pho, which is Vietnamese noodle soup base.
I never knew how to pronounce that word.
I know, pho. I often refer to it as pho. There's nothing wrong with saying that. But it's we've actually reformulated it now to we've worked with a very well-known Vietnamese chef, and she basically I've met her years ago, and I said, will you try our pho? Because we tried to be as authentic as possible when we developed it, and really sympathetic to how it's made traditionally. I didn't want to be like, we're making a pho, and just throw a load of stuff in it and be like, it tastes a bit like. I was really precious about the ingredients, and she tried it and she was like, it's okay, I could do better. Nice. So she's redeveloped it, and this is one of the samples of the final version, and we're relaunching it with her, in collaboration with her, basically.
Amazing. So the future looks like manage the growth, move to a new factory, lots of new product development. Yeah.
And
you've almost run out of retail presence to get into. No international expansion?
Watch this space.
Yeah.
We want to really, master the UK and Ireland, and then we will look beyond that.
Amazing. I'm going to ask you just a couple of quick questions before we go. What is the most important skill you've had to learn as a founder?
Learning how to make a quick decision and just committing, because I think a lot of problems come when you sit on something for too long. I think keeping momentum is really important. Decisiveness. Yeah.
What's one thing you would say to someone starting out on with a food brand?
I think from now, what I'm doing now, which I should have done at the very beginning, is decide what you want your life to look like long term.
It's the exact same thing that Luke said.
Really?
Yeah. Be prepared to go through like a couple of years of hell, pretty much.
Yeah.
Be resilient. Prepare to be resilient.
And realise that, you've got to make sacrifices and you can't resent that. So, I didn't really have a life for 2 years. It was all day, every day. Broth. Yeah. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, what do I want my life to look like when I'm 50? Mm-hmm. And how do I get to that point? How do I work towards that? So I think deciding that really early. Why am I doing this? Do I always want this to be a bit fun and something that excites me? Or are you really aggressively ambitious and you're like, I want to be the biggest and the best? I'd argue that being the biggest and the best isn't a good goal for anybody. I don't think that's a good life choice, and it's not very satisfying. So it'll be satisfying for about 5 minutes. So actually it's about what do you want, what value do you want in your life and for the people you love, and how can you get there, and how can you make it a good experience for everyone on the journey with you.
That's really good advice. And so many founders say the exact same thing I've spoken to. It's really good.
That's good.
So what does that look like for you? Is that an acquisition?
You know what? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's about getting to a point where potentially an acquisition, or do I carry on? And I'm sort of trying to create the next 5 years where I get to that point, and for my investors, they're rewarded, and then I decide whether I want to check out or carry on. Because right now there's a lot more that I want to do, and I might find in 5 years I'm not ready to let it go. So...
That's amazing. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And the last one, what founder or brand do you think more people should be watching?
Oh, God.
Or who's inspiring you at the moment? What brand?
That's a really hard one. I have to say I know the founder well. It's Bold Bean Co. I think what they've done marketing-wise as a brand is really incredible, and ultimately created a new category. Which, there was a bean category before, but I think just drumming up that much interest in quite a dead category for a long time and making it cool and making it something that they're able to innovate with, I think is incredible.
Is this baked beans?
It's not. They've actually launched baked beans.
I was thinking that needs a disruption.
Yes.
It's just like Heinz and Bachelors. What else?
They literally, I think, in the last year have launched baked beans, 3 different types that are delicious but not as sugary. They're kind of a bit more of a grown-up taste. But they started with chickpeas and white beans and butter beans, things like that. But their social media presence is incredible.
Okay, let's check them out.
Yeah, it's they're game changing.
Nice. Well, Ros, thank you so much. That was so much fun and great to hear from you.